Hello and welcome back to Shadex. I'm happy that you're here. Today I'm doing a reaction video to the question of whether or not Paris is overrated. So this past week, my friend sent me two different posts talking about how Paris is overrated. So I'll read the two posts that I got. In the first one, the person said, I found Paris to be overrated. Yes, I said it. Apparently, there is a word for the disappointment I felt, Paris syndrome. The city stinks, is overpopulated and dirty, and the people a rude and arrogant bunch. And then she went on to talk about how she saw the Eiffel Tower and took some stunning photos, blah, 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 blah. Before I even get into the actual video, let me just say that talking about rude and arrogant is not even new, and I don't think it's Paris specific. I think this is an impression that people have about French people in general, just saying. And then for the second post, the person had done an Instagram reel where she said that she visited 20 European countries and then she went ahead to rate them based on different criteria. And of course, Paris got the overrated one, the badge for being overrated. Now, what do I think? I think that both of them are right and they're also wrong. Hear me. Yes, Paris is overrated, especially if all you've heard and all you know about the city, or if your expectation about the city is based on the Eiffel Tower or whatever you've heard in the media about Paris being one of the fashion capitals of the world and being a romance capital or the romance capital of the world, of course you're going to be underwhelmed when you arrive. I remember when I arrived here and I would be going to school and everybody would just literally, by everybody now, I'm not talking about students, I'm talking about people going to work, people in the metro, people on the streets, literally, when I say everybody, of course, not every single human, but probably 80% of people are in jeans and sneakers because of course Paris is a walking city. The metro stations have lots of stairs, not all of them have escalators, so you have to do a lot of walking. Even between the metro station and your final destination, you have to walk. Paris is a walking city, it's a biking city, whatever. So a lot of people wear flats and sneakers and all of that. And I remember commenting to a friend to say that I wonder how French people manage to convince people or convince the rest of the world that they're the fashion capital of the world, because in everyday life, you don't see it. And at some point, I took some photos of just random people on the streets and the things that they would wear and be like, oh, we're supposed to be in the fashion capital and all of that. I'll go through my phone and if I see any one of those, or maybe check online, I'll put them in this video just so that you have an idea what I'm talking about. That said, are there fashionable people? Are there big brands in Paris? Of course there are, right? The fashion week still happens twice a year, I believe, one for women, one for men. There are lots of stylists, there are a lot of people that work in fashion and branding and styling and all of this. So it's not as if that industry does not exist, that set of people do not exist, but it's not the average everyday person that you meet on the streets. Do you see? And I think it's the same thing. If you go to Milan, you don't expect the average local to wake up and dress up like a fashionista just because they're going to buy bread down the street or something like this. Now that I've agreed that Paris is overrated, I don't think it's a Paris problem specifically. I think it's a big city problem. The same way people think that New York is overrated, the same way people think that Milan is overrated, the same way people think Tokyo is overrated, Paris is overrated, right? Because a lot of people build their expectations on things that are actually not reality. If you go to New York, for example, depending on what part of the city that you go to and the things that you're exposed to in that part of the city, that's what would shape your experience. That's what would shape your impression of the city. And you might come out of it saying, oh, this was the best place I've ever been, or oh my God, this is so overrated, or underwhelming or not worth the hype or something. Another thing to mention is budget. And I think that a lot of young people, myself included, that do all this like country tour and go on social media saying that, oh, I went to 20 something countries, I went to this number of countries or whatever, on a budget, right? Which is not a bad thing, because like you want to maximize your experience. So it's not like, oh, you come to Paris from, say, Nigeria and you go back home or something. So you come and you want to go to like many EU countries, especially because like one visa will get you into this many places. So you're trying to maximize your budget and resources as much as possible. In itself, this is a smart idea. This is good because, I mean, you have one major flight and then you can use like trains and buses or whatever within the EU. However, when it comes to experiences or experiencing the different cities, this could also be really limiting, right? Paris is an expensive city. I'll tell you that for free. Like, Paris is super expensive. According to TripAdvisor, if you're on a strict budget, you need a minimum of 100 euros per day in Paris for feeding and little souvenirs. Bear in mind that this amount does not cover accommodation, does not cover flights. So it's just basically, oh, I wake up, maybe I see one Eiffel Tower thingy, I want to buy it and I want to eat while I'm out during the day. 100 euros is a lot of money, right? So if that's what you need on a strict budget, then it gives you an idea that this city is actually expensive and it's not the kind of place that you go on a budget, because there's so many things that you're supposed to do that would improve your experience of the city that you won't be able to do because of your budget. So for instance, there's so many things to do in Paris, from the regular Eiffel Tower to the Louvre Museum to going to Chateau de Versailles, to boat cruises, to the balloon flights over the city. Like, there's several things that you can do in Paris, right? But 95% of these places require an entrance fee, including the Eiffel Tower, by the way, which is why a lot of people only take pictures downstairs where you can see the picture of the tower. But you can actually go up the tower. You pay to go up the tower and everything. It's not super expensive. The last time I checked, I think it was like 19 or 20 euros per adult. But like it adds up if you're going to, say, 4 or 5 places in one day and they're different. If you're going to the Chateau de Versailles, I think it's also about 20 something euros. If you're going to enter into the Louvre Museum, not just take pictures with the triangle outside, there is also a fee for that. I don't remember how much at the moment. So when you put all of that together, we're already like over 60 euros and you haven't even eaten this day. You know, so if you're on a 100 euro budget, it gets tight, right? So you're just like, oh, I'm just gonna go and take a picture or whatever. Yeah, the person also, one of them also talked about how the city stinks. Question is, where did you go? Does Paris stink? Yes. So I'm not even denying that. I'm not even here to say, oh, it's not what you think, nah. That's not it. Like, yes, the city stinks. Yes, the city could be dirty. However, it also depends on where you go. There's some parts of the city that are like sparkling clean, and you like, yeah, there are rich neighborhoods in every city, right? The parts of the city that you go to, like, you don't even see many people roaming about. It's not noisy. It's not this or that. Like, it's chilled, like the Emily in Paris kind of vibe and everything. But then in most places where like actual average regular people live, it could get dirty, especially some metro stations. You find rats in some metro stations, and I've mentioned this in the previous video where I was comparing Paris to Lagos. If you haven't seen that video, you should probably check it out. But again, these are not issues that are specific to Paris. New York also has a metro station or subway station rat problem, right? There are homeless people in Paris, there are homeless people in other cities in the world. Like, it's not a Paris thing, if you see what I mean. But I digress. Just to put things in perspective for you, I did a bit of research, and some people also said that, oh, Milan is very overrated. By the way, Milan is in Italy. It's very overrated because it is not an authentic city. And I'm just like, what is authentic? Who defines authenticity for a city? Is it the locals who live there or who have lived there for their entire lives or for a long time, or a tourist who is visiting for 2 days, 1 week, and whose expectation is based on newspaper articles or web or blogs or something? Like, who defines what is authentic? What is authentic? Because this could be really, really individualistic and personal. Like, what I find authentic and what I find beautiful is not the same thing that appeals to another person. So the fact that one person does not think it is authentic does not mean it is not authentic. Like, who defines this stuff, and what does that even mean when we're talking about a city, you know? Like, so I feel like because everybody has a platform, everybody can say whatever they feel now. Like, people don't even give a lot of thought to these things before they choose some words that they use. But yeah, back to Paris. Have you seen Emily in Paris? Great show, but it does not give you a realistic view of what Paris is like. I mean, they focus on all the nice dandy things, they over-exaggerated some things, and all of this. First is the ease of getting along in the city with next to no French. I mean, there are people here who don't speak any French, but it's not that easy for them. It's not as easy as the show makes it look like that. Oh, everywhere you go, you just happen to make English speaking friends and everything. Like, you make friends, and sometimes there are friends who don't speak a word of English. I've had to work with people who don't speak any English. I've had to make friends with them because now I have to communicate with them somehow. I learned some words, I try to make it happen. If it's not happening, I'll use Google Translate or something like that. But we try to get it work, so like they end up improving their English a little bit, I end up improving my French a little bit. And sometimes even my friends that say that they speak English get stuck a lot of times. So they're trying to tell me something in English and they're asking me, comment dit ça en anglais? Like, how do we say that in English? I'm just like, I thought you said you speak English. Like, I'm the one who doesn't speak a lot of French, and I'm the one that's supposed to be translating for you. But that happened a lot last year, and I think it also helped me to improve my French, because now I had to figure it out, like, based on context. If I had no access to a dictionary or a Google Translate or something, I would be like, okay, what are we talking about? What word is he looking for? Something like this. We talk about it. If it's that, I'm like, oh, okay, so now I know a new thing in French, you know? Like, I know what this means. And that way, I improve my vocabulary and all of that. But like, that everywhere you turn, you just happen to make a friend who speaks perfect English, and they don't need you to translate something, or there are no awkward moments where like nobody knows what this thing means in either English or French. Like, it's not realistic. Also, that in the entire show, she never showed up to work in a taxi or coming out of a metro or riding a bike. She just always walked in ready in high heels and all of that. Like, huh? Have you been to Paris? Have you worked in Paris? Like, no, dear. There are ways that you get around these things, and like, it was just not realistic. And you find a lot of French people and a lot of Parisians bashing the show online, and that's because it's things like this that people see and build impressions off of, and then they come to the city and experience something entirely different, and they're just like, no, this is not what it's supposed to be. This place is so overrated and all of that. Like, it's reality. I don't think anywhere in the world is perfect, where there is a city or a town or a village that has no downsides, no issues or anything like that. I remember last year I went to Berlin with a group of friends, and by the third day there were some people that couldn't wait to get back to Paris, and I was one of them. And at this point, I think we had only been in Paris for 6 months. Like, all of us were in school together, right? And we started school in January. We had only been in Paris for 6 months, but like we already loved the city. It had grown on us, and we were just like, this place is not doing it for us. Does that mean that Berlin is a bad city or is overrated? Of course not. But not every city is meant for everybody, which is why some people cannot live in New York, some people cannot live in Lagos, Nigeria, and would rather be in Abuja or Port Harcourt or other cities, right? So like, what's your personality? Are you a Parisian at heart or not? Like, some things may be too much or too quiet for people. I remember that I went somewhere in another country, and the streets were so quiet. Like, even during the day, you'd come out and literally there'll be nobody on the street. And I remember asking somebody that, where is everybody? Like, where are the people? Because like, if you go to Paris on a regular afternoon, like, it's bustling. There are people everywhere, and it reminds me a lot of Lagos, which is probably one of the reasons why I like it, or it feels like home, because the difference is not so vast. But some people like quiet places and all of that. So like, if you come to Paris and you go to a place that is just like full of people, you're like, what is happening? Anyway, I hope that with these few points, I've been able to convince you that Paris is both overrated and not overrated. But let me hear from you in the comments. Have you been to Paris? How did you find it? Have you been to other cities? How did you find them? Did you find them like overrated, or it was just what you thought it was going to be and all of that? Let's chat until the next time. A bientôt.